All right, we made it. Here we are, the Ulysses S. Grant worth of episodes. In case you're from Canada and have no idea what we're talking about, that's who's on the $50 bill. He won the Civil War. There's no reason to be sad. Both sides tried their best. Welcome to Tougie's Take, episode 50.
Oh, the big 5-0. Deej and I both had to navigate our way through some stormy weather.
Yeah.
Some tremendous winds and intermittent power outages. But we're finally here, Deej. 50 episodes. I still couldn't quite describe this show to certain friends and family members. It's just like, it's just a thing I do, which is how I describe most of the things I end up doing. And I normally just get good for you. So, Deej, good for us. 50 episodes.
50 episodes. We did it. We got there.
We did.
I'm sure there's other important numbers too. Isn't it weird how there's just certain numbers that are 50. That's the one.
Yeah. I don't know. Why can't... I don't know. Maybe Jim Carrey ruined the significance of numbers that,
Oh yeah, when
don't
he was
have
playing
the
saxophone in an alleyway.
Yeah, number 23, what's the importance of that? The number 32, but hey, 30 years. Oh, that's the big one. So
yeah, right.
I don't know.
Train to, as they say.
I don't know where we're going with this anymore, but that's a sign of another episode of this podcast, so we're right on track.
Yeah. And so today, Tougie, for episode 50, I figured we'd do something special for today's Warmies. I figured we'd do something close to home, and in many cases, your own backyard, as we ask questions about the great state of Maine.
Oh my god. Okay.
We'll start with two easy ones. Number one, what is Maine's nickname?
Oh god, Vacation Land.
That's incorrect. It's actually officially the Pine Tree State.
Well, yeah, but there's different ones. It's fucking Vacation Land. The sign as you enter the state over the bridge in New Hampshire is Vacation Land. Look it up.
I mean, do people vacation in Maine? Are people in Ontario are like, hey, got a little getaway with the wife this weekend. We're going to Maine.
It is 1,000%. It's both. It is the Pine Tree State, but it is also Vacation Land. I got that one right. I promise you.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. Vacation Land, home of the world's smallest wooden roller coaster.
It actually might be.
So what's your state animal?
Splashdown. What the hell's our state animal?
The state animal.
It better be the fucking moose.
It is the moose.
It better be. I was going to say, if it's some bullshit it's this freaking bird you might see at this one remote location. Goddamn right, it's a moose.
Okay, so Maine is the largest producer of which fruit? You should get this one.
Potato.
Oh, God.
God.
You heard it here first, guys. Potato is a fruit.
I'm messing with you. It's a fucking blueberry. Come on.
It is the blueberry.
Why the hell do you think I had the name Wild Blueberries for so long after the Maine Mariners rejected that as a team?
That's why I knew you'd get that one.
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
I only say that because, again, I had the pictures up yesterday on Instagram of when I was up at the lake. And, God, my girlfriend died laughing because one of the family friends
Sorry for your loss.
Yeah. Basically, she called a tomato the wrong thing, and now it's just nothing but, hey, let's just say vegetables and fruits wrong.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. The things you have to do to entertain yourself in Maine. Anyway, next question about this great state.
Well, speaking of entertaining yourself in Maine, who is the most famous person from the state of Maine?
Fucking me. It's me. It might be.
That's incorrect. Would you like to guess again?
Are you sure? Did you look it up? Most famous person from Maine that's not me. I'm at least the most famous person from my city. I have that going for me, which isn't saying much. The odds were very much in my favor. God. I mean, I feel like Okay. Let me know if I'm on the right track here. Are we going comedian or writer?
I mean, if you were to just ask somebody off the street,
It would be Stephen King, though.
all right, I'm sorry, that's incorrect.
Fuck
And
you.
the reason that's incorrect is actually the most famous person from Maine is George H.W. Bush, because most people from the Middle East haven't heard of Stephen King.
He's not from Maine, but he had a vacation home in Maine when he was alive in Kennebunkport.
He's legally a resident.
Was he?
I don't know.
I guess he paid taxes. Fuck that. I'm more famous for being from Maine than George H.W. Bush was.
There's places where they would disagree. They also haven't read the works of Stephen King there.
God.
All right, here's another great question.
I guess nobody's thrown a shoe at my son, so
that's true.
I'll give it to him. Give me a couple of years. See if I can match him.
Give the kid a couple of years. He'll be a shoe dodger in no time. So Freeport, Maine is home to this geographic phenomenon. And I love this question. I saw this and I had to include it.
To this geographic phenomenon. What the fuck is Freeport famous for?
Right? So the answer is that they have a literal desert.
Could have fooled me. Sorry, anybody from Freeport, but
it's really funny. It's called there's a whole government site. Is it desertofmaine.com? And there is just a desert, and it's like the size of half of a golf course, just in the middle of Freeport, Maine, because they over-farmed some land, and then there's some weird natural phenomenon where there's no rainfall. So there's just a desert in the middle of Maine.
I will honestly text my girlfriend right now to see if she has ever heard of this in her life, because I have lived
the Freeport Desert. It's located at 95 Desert Road. In case you wanted to know.
What the fuck?
It also specifies in the directions that it's a dead end, which is really funny.
Most places in this state are. Next question.
All right, so the next question. Chester Greenwood, a famous Maineite, he invented this traditional winter accessory while living in Maine, originally intended for ice skaters. It's celebrated every year with the Chester Greenwood Parade. What is this item?
Originally for ice skaters. Because initially my mind went to the snowshoe, but then you said ice skater. Oh my god. So it was intended for ice skaters, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what it's used for.
Correct.
What the hell did you do, Chester? Is this even a real person? Are you making this up?
This is not only a real person. I'm actually very happy that you haven't heard of it, because I know you are now going to go to your next Chester Greenwood Day Parade.
It was meant for ice skaters.
Yes.
I would be interested in this, apparently.
You just go once. Like, I feel like it's not like you just need to see it once. Well,
was he the first person to throw an Xbox controller? Because I can relate to that.
If only. That was actually Bill Gates. And that's because he got to try it first. No, he actually invented earmuffs. And the Chester Greenwood Day Parade, people build giant earmuff floats and have a parade.
I don't believe this. I refuse to believe this. Also, my girlfriend had no idea about the Freeport Desert. This is all fake news.
I think they're trying to keep it quiet. So when
earmuff parade, huh?
Yeah, the earmuff parade. I would imagine you wear earmuffs. So when people say bugs and insects in Maine, they are referring to different things. Which word does each one, or what does each word refer to?
Wait, can you repeat that?
So apparently the words bugs and insects in the state of Maine mean different things. Which one does each thing refer to?
Insects refer to bugs, and bugs refer to kids who won't get off your goddamn lawn.
You got it half correct. Bugs are actually, I guess they call bugs are lobsters there in most of the coastal vernacular. If you say bugs, you don't mean insects.
Now, as someone who has family who's worked off the water, I outright refuse to call it that and have kind of put that out of my memory. So,
hey, we gonna get some bugs and butter near the lighthouse.
If anybody said that to me, I would never talk to them again. Oh, God.
Exactly. All right, so this is the final question, and I saved it for last because it's my favorite, and I wrote the answer in all capital letters. What is Maine's state fish?
Maine's state fish.
This is going to revolutionize your franchise mode gameplay.
It actually might. God. Now, I'm not going to know the specific thing.
Oh, see, that's why it's great.
Okay, but my guess would have to be salmon.
All right, so it is the landlocked salmon.
What?
Which I have no idea what that is, but it is Maine's state fish, the landlocked salmon.
So,
if you Google them, they're described as an entertaining fish to catch.
I'll take the word for it. God, my state is so stupid.
I have a bonus question here.
Oh,
just
thank
for
God.
Weird
Keep them coming.
facts.
We can do this for the rest of the show. I'm down for this.
So
Teach me
LL
things.
Bean.
LL Bean, yes.
That is Maine's largest employer. It's 95% of your economy. I actually don't know if that's real.
It might be.
The headquarters outside have a giant LL Bean duck boot.
Yeah.
And it is made with all the real materials.
Yeah.
And you could wear it if you were a big enough giant, like Paul Bunyan, who Maineites claim is from Maine, but that's disputed. Do you have any idea what size the giant duck boot is?
No, but I thought I had this because I'm like, it's in Freeport. It's the one thing Freeport's known for.
Actually, they're known for their desert.
Apparently. Fuck.
We'll sell rain boots in the desert.
God. Dude, like this boot thing is like, it's almost the size of the building it's next to. Like, it is.
Some say it's Maine's Statue of Liberty.
A tribute to white girls everywhere.
Yeah, right. So,
oh God,
it's actually size 410.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got that. Like, that doesn't surprise me. It's absolutely gigantic.
Yeah, it's actually home to the vast majority of Maine's gnome population.
And
fairy tale humor. It never works.
God, I got nothing. This might have been my favorite Warmies yet. I learned some stuff. It was educational.
Do you know where the name Maine comes from?
Oh, Maine, Massachusetts, when it was still a part of Massachusetts.
No one knows. And that's my favorite fun fact. So they're like, yeah, it's just called that. So we also call it that. Someone started singing it, not knowing what it was. So that concludes today's Warmies. This is episode 50. Brought to you by Manscaped.
Our friends at Manscaped.
That's free worldwide shipping, including to the Freeport Desert. With code Tougie, that's Tougie, for 20% off at manscaped.com. Manscaped, your balls will thank you.
Do you want to be able to shave your balls off of, with the device that came off the back of a camel? Manscaped.com. Ship it to the Freeport Desert.
Exactly.
Where else? I mean, I guess anywhere there's a camel in a desert. Yeah, I guess that could work. And guess what? Manscaped will get it there. A big thank you to them for sponsoring this show once again. A big thank you to you for listening. But we still got a long way to go, Deech. A long way to go in this episode, in this show's history, I hope. And we'll have more Maine facts along the way. We'll talk more about how our fucking flower is a pine cone. Because it is. Our state flower is a fucking pine cone.
That was picked by a lawyer.
The state is ridiculous. Oh, and I love it. God damn it. Should we get to the intro now?
Yeah.
This is the intro now.
Hey, we're back.
We are back. Oh, God.
Like anybody listening to this show, you probably have some questions.
You would think, yes.
And we've got answers.
We do. We do indeed. So to start this show here, then let's get down to business. We have a ton of viewer questions today. Some will be rapid fire, some won't be, because we still have a ton to talk about in terms of actual hockey stuff. Again, it's a summer show, baby. This first question comes from Dusty. Are the Coyotes actually not a hockey team and are just a money laundering scheme for the rest of the NHL? Deej, your response.
I mean, I can't stress this. Why would you need a money laundering scheme when you own a casino?
Yeah, that's my point, actually, is like the entire point now of the Coyotes is the owner has it to legitimize his casino ownership. So
yeah, it's like
it's
like buying a sleeping bag when you got a mattress. I don't know.
Oh, this next God, I'm delirious at this point. This next question comes from Nighthawk. What is your opinion? Now, this is a subject I was going to have us talk about earlier in the week, but I'm like, do we really want to go there? But screw it, let's go there. What's your opinion on the hiring and immediate firing of Dusty Emu by the Leafs? Why were they not more thorough with their vetting process in the first place? So a quick rundown for those who do not know. Dusty Emu was hired by the Toronto Maple Leafs as a goalie coach, and they fired him like less than a week later. It was very, very few days, and because a lot of people dug up a lot of the things that he had been saying and liking on social media. Not only, of course, tweets in support of the January 6th insurrection, you also had some posts that he liked that were just flat out anti-black, transphobic, and white supremacist leaning. Despite, and hey, doesn't mean you can't think that just because of a nationality, but it's just interesting that this is a man of Japanese descent who is from British Columbia, liking material on Twitter that identifies as more being like white supremacist. Like this guy might have some issues he needs to work through. Let's just say that. And Deej, I know your opinion on this is pretty much the same, right? And I agree with the thought of, hey, there is nothing wrong with being a more right-leaning person. There isn't. If you love your country, cool. If you support the Second Amendment, cool. The problem is when you go way too far overboard. And Dusty Emu went way too far overboard to the point where a company, let's call it what it is, it's a sports team, but it's a company, does not feel as though they can safely employ you without you bringing further negative aspects to the team. So I don't view this as censorship or that Dusty Emu was canceled. Consequences for your actions, stand by what you want to stand by, but you have to understand as well that if you stand by certain things, being transphobic for one, that certain places aren't going to want to employ you.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's complicated. I mean, at the end of the day, the only reason Toronto takes any action here is because they're afraid they'll lose money.
Yeah.
Like, they don't give a fuck about any of this.
I agree with that, yes.
Like, it's weird. It's also like, it's one of those things where, I don't know. People are like, I think things are kind of getting out of hand, I think. I feel like everybody should be allowed like 10 social media mulligans. Just like for, 30 years from now, God knows what's offensive,
It's tough though. Like, I'm sorry, but it depends on the subject matter to me. Like I said, I'm shedding no tears for this guy whatsoever. Like, again, you're Republican, fine. If you're in support of what happened on January 6th, that's too far. And if you have to suffer consequences as a result of that, you made your bed. Lie in it. There you go. If you're someone who's transphobic and essentially a public company, a spot where you're going to be in the spotlight on the biggest hockey team in the sport, they don't feel comfortable having you employed because, yes, ultimately you could cost them money and just further trouble. Like, if you're not worth the head, like, here's the thing: if Dusty Amu was worth the headache, he'd still have a job. He wasn't deemed as worth the headache. Tony D'Angelo is apparently worth the headache. So that's the lesson, Deej, that we all know. You have to be good enough at what you do to be worth the headache. Dusty Amu isn't worth the headache, so goodbye.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is.
Sure. This comes from AJ for both of us. Favorite memory from attending a hockey game? I feel like we got questions like this before, but Deej, I'll let you go first.
Let's see. 2018 Penguins versus Panthers. Panthers were up 4-2 at the start of the third. Penguins came back with 3 quick goals, and the Panthers scored with a minute left. And it was just one of the greatest hockey games I've ever seen. 6-5 was the final. Watched it with my dad. It was a great game.
For me, I'm leaning towards, there's 2 different moments that stand out. Actually, there's quite a few. Remember being a kid, getting a puck. 2 pucks got chipped over the glass at a Portland Pirates game. I caught both of them. And then my dad's like, hey, you should give one to the other kid that's younger than you, that's like a row down from us. So I did. I caught 2 pucks at one game. It was ridiculous. And then for like a Bruins game, there was the time that I accidentally got punched by a drunk guy behind me and my glasses went flying 3 rows. Like, he's behind me. Milan Lucic beat somebody in a fight and he went, yeah, and put his fist forward and it clipped the side of my face. So that was fun. His friend apologized profusely as to not have there be an incident. Not saying I'm the toughest guy around, but I wasn't overly happy. Yeah, and then, God, there was the time that me and my buddies, we went to a Bruins game, and it has nothing to do with hockey, this one either. But, oh, God. Deej, have you ever been to Boston?
No.
Well, I'll tell you, buddy, in March, April, the weather's getting nice. You might just run across a naked man sitting on some steps. And I didn't see it, but one of my buddies didn't see it. But one of my other friends can't think of that trip without thinking of this guy's dong just hanging out in the wind while chilling out on the staircase. So, guys, sometimes it's about the side memories more than what you actually went to the event for.
It's like, what's your favorite memory from attending a hockey game? Oh, this guy's dong on the stairs.
That's my favorite memory because he was traumatized. It was great. This question comes from Hawks. You could pit 2 teams at their peak in the NHL from any era. Who would it be and why? Would it be the early 2000s Red Wings versus I think he said for him, would it be like the early 2000s Red Wings versus the modern Tampa Bay Lightning? Deej, if you could put any 2 teams at their peak in the NHL from any era, who would it be?
Give me the 2021 Maple Leafs versus the 1920 Maple Leafs, so they can literally play themselves.
Bravo, sir. I will go. Granted, it might not be at their peak, but I'm changing the question. Give me Game 7, 2013, Chicago-Boston. What would have happened if the Bruins didn't shit the bed in Game 6? That's the one game I want to see and will always want to see. That we never got because the Bruins left the door open to blow it and lose, and they blew it and lost. So, yeah.
Fair.
There you go. This comes from Devatron. Deej, he gave us 1,000 questions in one, so let's just go for it. Favorite Ninja Turtle, go.
Michelangelo.
Donatello. Your favorite one-hit wonders like Chichu in 06, Jason Blake getting 40 for the Leafs, then paying him to not do anything.
Probably Steal My Sunshine by Len.
Return of the Mac. And Super Shredder versus Bane. Who wins? Super Shredder. He was voiced by Uncle Phil.
Probably Bane, because I've heard of him.
Rick Nash or Ilya Kovalchuk. You get the draft one as a rookie and build around one of them. Who do you pick?
Probably Ilya Kovalchuk and just cherish the moments while he's still there.
I was going to say Rick Nash because he won't leave for Russia. This question comes from Steve. Could you see roller hockey being incorporated into things such as the EA NHL series or even the Olympics? So, Deej, first and foremost, roller hockey in the EA NHL series. I am shocked that hasn't happened. As we continue to see, NBA, of course, has their gigantic online world where you can just go to pick up courts and it's fine. FIFA has essentially FIFA Street. Madden has the Yard. I am honestly shocked that NHL, I mean, in a way, obviously talking about the game budgets, but in a way, it would be very fitting for the NHL to get a mode like that and have roller hockey be an option.
Yeah. I'm sure they have plenty of free time to work on something like that.
And then we've talked about what games we want to see at the Olympics. Roller hockey in the Summer Olympics?
I mean, speed walking's an Olympic sport. Speed walking.
Uh-huh.
Speed walking. The kids are too sensitive. They can't even run.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, I think, because technically inline hockey is a different game with different rules. It's 4-on-4 traditionally versus 5-on-5. So I think it'd be cool.
Deej against speed walking is my favorite thing. Oh, God, yes. These next 17 questions come from Richard Head. First, we have a serious one. What stadiums/arenas are on your bucket list? Maybe choose one from the NHL, NFL, MLB, NBA, and Europe. Deej, your bucket list NHL stadium.
The Coliseum.
Do you have an actual pick, or are we just rolling with it?
No, that's it. It's the Coliseum. All the other ones are just like, a funnel to get you to spend $9 on a beer. But the Coliseum,
I
you can get your picture taken there.
I haven't been to Madison Square Garden. We'll go with MSG. For the NFL,
I would like to see a game played in Rome. Maybe at the Coliseum.
Good pick. Unpredictable at that. Good stuff. For me, God, let's take the Hard Rock down in Miami Gardens. I can catch a game with DH and watch them beat the Patriots like they always do.
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing a game in Cowboys Stadium. I think
that'd be pretty cool.
It'd be interesting to kind of like look at the window and be like, oh, that's where God watches TV or whatever. Whatever goes on in the book of Jerry Jones.
Or we can go to Minnesota and watch all the birds hit the window.
Yeah, exactly.
They fixed that issue, didn't they?
It turns out they didn't. They only fixed it for some species of birds. I don't know.
For baseball stadiums or parks, what do you think?
I don't know. Like one of the ones that like old guys are weirdly fond about.
So like Wrigley,
like Wrigley Field, or what's that other one? Yeah, what's the big one called? The one everyone, Chase Field in Arizona, where the Diamondbacks play.
The biggest one. Oh fucking hell! I would go with God. Let's go with Oracle Park in San Francisco. I like that a lot. That just seems like a cool place to catch a baseball game. DH NBA.
I also in baseball, I wouldn't mind going to like Yankee Stadium, because then for like the next, like for the rest of your life, anytime somebody mentions the Yankees, you can just be like, I took a trip up to the Bronx when I was in my 30s and I went to Yankee Stadium and experienced the whole thing. And you can bring up that story so many times and it will never be interesting, but you can keep doing it. There's a lot of people that do that. So I'd like to be one of those people. NBA Stadium.
Yeah.
I've never been to a Heat game.
Yeah, fair enough.
They're in a dangerous part of Miami.
Also fair enough. God. Let's just go watch some basketball in Utah. Just see what the vibe's like. You know?
We're going on down to the basketball chapel.
Oh, God, there's jokes to be made. We'll hold off. And Deej, I mean, for Europe, aside from the Coliseum, which is clearly my pick, yeah, like any sporting event in Europe, anywhere you want to go, what do you got?
Probably the ancient stadium of Olympia in Greece.
Fair.
So where the Olympics started. That's where they tugged that war.
The good old days. For me, it would it'd definitely be Anfield. Go watch a Liverpool game. Although, God, I have to mention too, like it just looks ridiculous. I'd like to go to the Allianz Arena, home of Bayern Munich. Anybody who's like, that sounds familiar. It's the stadium that lights up, like really lights up, and it's cool as shit. So yeah, those would be my two.
That's what I'm talking about.
You know, catch a game, catch the lights, do what you got to do. This next question from Richard Head: is there a Vine or a TikTok that you quote daily?
Yeah, not really anymore.
No.
Yeah, I don't know why. It never comes up anymore.
The good old days of being able to quote that stuff, huh?
Yeah, I mean, there was a while where I can't believe you've done this was like a regular occurrence in my speech pattern, but not anymore. I don't know why. It just died out.
I guess the closest thing I'd have is from Angry Reactions. Just the way he says gorgeous. It makes my day. It's a fun time. So shout out to Angry Reactions on TikTok. If it were up to you, would you do it? Yes.
Yeah, sure, I guess. I feel like that might get us canceled. What's next?
Want to go splitsies on DAZN for a year?
What are these things?
Is there even anything left on DAZN? Remember when DAZN was going to be a big deal?
I have no idea what that is, if I'm being perfectly honest with you.
Fair enough. What's your go-to karaoke song?
It's God Bless the USA by Lee Greenwood.
All right, we got to do karaoke then. Whew. I'm gonna go with "The Call" by the Backstreet Boys. The classic. And the last question from Rich: what are your honest thoughts on the movie The Love Guru? And do you think the Ballard curse is the true reason for the Maple Leafs' struggles? Your thoughts on The Love Guru, affectionately known as the movie that killed Mike Myers' career.
If I remember correctly, that movie's like incredibly francophobic.
It's
Justin Timberlake as Jacques Grand.
That movie,
I've never seen it.
I don't know if there's a group of people that can watch that movie without finding something that could be deemed offensive to them. Like they swung for the fences in regards to everything.
Yeah. So. I don't know. I never saw it. I do know that I think Mike Myers won a Razzie for it. So good for him.
He did. He absolutely did. And yeah, I just choose to remember the good times. You know.
Right?
Go ahead.
I don't know. Do you happen to know which actor has won the most Razzies?
It's got to be Adam Sandler.
It's Sylvester Stallone. He once won a Razzie for worst reckless disregard for human life and public property for Rambo: Last Blood. Fun fact.
God, good stuff. And this one comes from Braden. What's the ugliest NHL jersey of all time? I guess I can't pick that absurd Habs jersey that some people might be able to see hanging on my wall if you're watching the video version of our podcast on the Tougies Take Podcast channel. Make sure to subscribe. Ugliest jersey of all time, the Toronto Maple Leafs barber pole.
I'm going to go with. Ooh, there's so many bad ones.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say the 2013 to 2015 when the Sabres had the all yellow with the gray sleeves. I think that was the worst one.
I want that jersey too, because you're right.
It wasn't even like they made a bold choice. They just made like a bunch of bad choices that compounded on each other. And then they just all looked like they were a specialized dive salvage team. It just wasn't great.
I don't disagree.
They looked like they were like crab fishermen from whatever that show is. Not Wicked Tuna, the other one. I don't know.
Deadliest Catch?
Yeah, that one. The one that's on every TV in Maine.
All the time, along with Northwood's Law. Shout out to
Northwood's Law. Today on Northwood's Law, this woman lost her dog because a neighbor opened up her fence. I don't know. It's like
that might actually be real.
They're calling it the greatest crime in the history of Maine. I don't know.
Oh, fucking hell. All right. And our final question, this comes from Reed. Pretty much he was asking about the Premier League, which I don't believe Deej knows any goddamn thing about.
I know some stuff about it.
Yeah? Can we get your predictions then? That's what I want. All right, here we go. So we're going to do this. The Premier League season started over the weekend. Started on Friday. There's a ton of games today on Saturday, including Liverpool beating Norwich 3-0. So what I want to know from Deej, out of the 20 teams in the Premier League, you take this as seriously as you want to. Out of the 20 teams in the Premier League, and definitely don't check your Twitter DMs, who is going to finish in the bottom three? Who are the relegated clubs going to be?
Well, I think that Liverpool absolutely walks it into touch and leaves the door wide open for Crystal Palace. That's what I think.
I think you nailed it.
I don't know. There was like some weird team I saw. It's like I think it was like Wolverhampton or something. There's no way they don't get relegated. Like that name's too dumb. Like you're gonna get relegated.
Good.
It's usually I can look at a list of EPL teams and tell you like who is gonna get relegated purely because I've never heard of them. That's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I do though think that Liverpool walks it into touch and leaves it wide open for Crystal Palace.
You heard it here, folks. Heard it here first. Deej, with that, I got nothing to add. Well, let's talk about some hockey stuff. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the Carolina Hurricanes continue to make themselves a laughing stock. Don't know if you saw it on Twitter before our weather struggles, but they're going to be raising a banner, crowning themselves as Central Division champions. Yes, that is the same exact thing that they made fun of Nashville for doing on social media. Has there been, and I asked this question to people on Twitter, has there been a steeper turnaround in terms of a fan base, or not a fan base, but an organization with a very good fan base, but an organization that went from pretty well liked to now I just couldn't give a shit about them?
The Thrashers?
Like, did the Thrashers ever do anything to be like, oh, here's a really good young goalie? Fuck him. Hey, let's bring in Tony DeAngelo. Let's raise a banner for winning a division after making fun of other teams for doing it. Come on, man.
I feel like if you're going to raise a banner for winning a division, it's like you have to do it because your fan base has been suffering for a long time and you just need a win.
You need something.
And I don't know. Carolina proves time and time again they're tone deaf. The only redeemable thing about that franchise right now is their unofficial mascot, Hamilton the pig, who's a real pig. But at this point, I bet Tom Dundon's just going to slaughter the thing because it's named after the guy that signed with the Devils. So it's like, what are you going to do? They're just complete the heel turn.
They just can't get a win.
Yeah.
A long, struggling franchise. And it was at this time, Deej, that I realized this entire time my cat has been in here. In fairness, it's the
You have a
girlfriend's
cat?
Well, my girlfriend has a cat, so it's kind of an adopted cat. I have a new shelf in my office. It's probably the tallest place in the house. He's just been sleeping up there this whole time. Had no idea.
She just introduced you to the cat, and you're like, I'll teach the boy. Show him the ways.
Oh, God. There is no proper transition for the topic that we were going to briefly mention next. But the Chicago Blackhawks, just to keep this story out there, because, it's been over 3 weeks since Logan Mailloux was drafted, and how often do you hear people asking, hey, what's going on with him? Montreal wins. That story's just kind of faded into the background. Unfortunately for Chicago, they can't quite get away with doing that and having the story fade into the background. Very common update that was here. They pushed for an extension in terms of when certain filings had to be in. Again, some people are like, that makes them look guilty. Maybe it does, but it's not an uncommon practice.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too, is it also stretches this out, and I think people want this whole thing to be over with already, which in a weird way is, I think that's kind of what the Hawks want, So, I don't know. We'll see where this goes. It clearly is not over yet. I believe they've extended this so that they can run more interviews and try and figure more stuff out. So, who knows where this ends up.
Oof, indeed. And Rick Westhead put out another article, of course, Rick Westhead of TSN. He conducted an interview with former Hawks skill coach Paul Vincent, which again does not paint a very pretty picture. A couple of the quotes. Aldrich brought interns into the players' locker room to drink alcohol after the games. Some of the interns looked younger, looked like minors, and he was having drinks with them, Vincent told investigators. On top of the fact, and this is the quote that really stood out from the story, again, I highly recommend everyone check it out. Vincent said a Blackhawks coach, whom Vincent did not identify, spoke to Aldrich and told him that what he was doing was not appropriate. Aldrich routinely had a 14-year-old boy stay for the weekends at his apartment, Vincent said, adding that he understood the boy's family was close to Aldrich, family friend, that's what I was told, adding that the boy developed into a pretty successful hockey player and became an NHL player. So, fun, as Deej mentioned, fun updates, and
there is an angle to this though that I haven't seen brought up that I think is interesting. And that's, do you know what Paul Vincent does currently?
I do not.
He is the Florida Panthers head skills coach.
Interesting.
And I think it would be interesting so I think that's the only reason I have hope that Q did not have quite the role in this that it seems is quite possible he did, because, it's still this guy he works with, and they both work for the Panthers now. So it's interesting. I don't know. That's just a note that I'll make as somebody holding out hope.
I mean, I think that's a fair point, right? Like, we have all questioned, how could Quenneville have not known? How could Kevin Shoveldayoff and Mark Bergevin have not known? But that is a fair point. If Paul Vincent saw stuff going on, would he be willing to work with Joel Quenneville if, he felt as though Q turned a blind eye to a lot of this?
And it doesn't seem like he would, based on that interview. Like, I guess, like with most they kind of refer to him in the interview as like most players saw him as like their protective grandfather. Like he's an elderly gentleman. Like he's an older guy. I don't know, it's interesting.
Still more twists to the tale, unfortunately, that just don't think we're gonna see go away anytime soon. Unfortunately, of course. Another quick topic that people want to know our thoughts on. I didn't cover it earlier in the week because it is what it is. The Athletic is reporting that jersey advertisements in the NHL will likely start small with patches similar to those on NBA jerseys. And of course, Deej, people are pissed. And I don't blame them. But I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just too negative towards this. But we all knew this is where it was going. You start with ads on the helmets, you start with the jerseys, but maybe it goes Premier League style, maybe it doesn't. But the bottom line is millionaires, billionaires, they see opportunities to make more money here. This is going to happen.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, so that's the thing is like it doesn't bother me that it's going on the jersey or anything like that. Like I think that's an inevitability of almost all sports. Yeah, what bugs me about it is it's not like ticket prices are going to go down or players are going to make more money. You know what I mean? There's no benefit to this other than people who don't really need to benefit from it. So that said, nothing we can do about it.
Basically, yeah. I mean, I agree, right? I agree with the standpoint of, well, goddamn, you know, how many ads do we need? There's ads on the boards. We have commercial breaks. There's ads on the ice. There's ads on the back glass. When's enough? And if we know anything about people that like making millions and billions of dollars, you know the answer is it's never enough. So, yeah. Like, again, I hate to be so defeatist about it, but this is happening. And there's basically nothing the average hockey fan can do about it because it's just going to happen. Like, that's kind of the long and short of it. It's just going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's just gonna happen. Come on down to the Chester Greenwood Parade. It's just gonna happen. I don't know.
Better wear your earmuffs. As the cat has successfully
Set off
turned
the
down
fire
my
alarm?
air conditioner. It's not even a fire alarm. He is standing on the buttons of the air conditioner. He has stopped. Deej, I want to get your thoughts really quickly when I say the words Austin Matthews and wrist surgery.
Austin Matthews, wrist surgery. I don't know. I guess it kind of implies that he was injured significantly more than they let us know. But I also, knowing the Toronto media, it's possible that his wrist is completely healed right now. And they're just publishing that story. So that way they can be like, oh, no, he'll be good in the playoffs this time. He got that wrist surgery. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting to me because he seemingly overcame like and healed through and played through the wrist injury throughout the season. So it's also bizarre to me that it took this long for them to, you know, declare surgery, which is a weird way to put that. But yeah,
I shall declare surgery.
I have received a second opinion and I shall declare surgery.
Jesus. Yeah, I mean, we all knew that an injury was there. That wasn't the surprising aspect of this whatsoever. Like you mentioned, you know, there was obviously that conversation around like, oh, like when he came back, I think against Winnipeg, is he at 100%? He still had an incredible season despite clearly not being 100%. So obviously with the surgery, you're always like, well, if it can't be rehabbed, will things ever exactly be the same? And the answer is no. It's just to what extent will this injury affect him moving forward? But he's also, 23 years old? 22?
Yeah.
You know, he's more likely to bounce back. So I think he'll be fine. Looks like he'll be ready for the start of the season. So all in all, it's good. He's probably going to be all right, but it does always suck to hear like, hey, top young star in the league, currently injured. What could the future be? You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. It is nice though. As you mentioned, if this detail was held off, it is always nice, of course, for the lovely fans in Toronto to have more stuff to constantly worry about and hate life about when it comes to being a Maple Leafs fan at this stage. As if the love guru wasn't enough.
Yeah, exactly.
In great news, tremendous news, speaking of great young players in the league, David Pastrnak once again was crowned Czech Player of the Year. He is the first player to ever win 5 in a row for an award dating back to 1969. He has tied Dominik Hasek as a 5-time winner. He needs 7 more awards to tie Jaromir Jagr at 12.
Yeah.
David Pastrnak, what a player. And will he go down as the best Czech player of all time? I don't know, maybe.
Probably not. Yeah, that's pretty rough. But yeah, I figure he's going to keep winning these for a while. It doesn't seem like, you know, there's anybody on his heels here.
Well, like Andre Palat finished second. I think Martin Necas finished fourth, and David Krejci was third, which obviously again makes me sad. But I respect his decision. But yeah, I mean, he's gonna finish with quite a few of these awards in his career.
Yeah, I agree. Did you see the other piece of Bruins news this week?
God, if it was bad news, I probably just canceled it out already.
Well, it would appear that the Providence Bruins have hired the Dark Wizard Muganel as their new head coach.
Care to elaborate?
I don't know. I saw this news report and it's like Muganel named head coach of Providence Bruins. And I was like, first of all, you're not going to give this guy a first name. You're just going to refer to him as Muganel. 100% Dark Wizard.
You have said his name too many times in a row. Please hold off on saying it again.
So, yeah, semantic satiation. It loses all meaning. It's because he's a dark wizard. I don't know.
I can't say I had seen that news, but I'm glad to know that the dark magic is on our side.
He's probably going to try and eat some Smurfs or something. Let's.
Jesus.
God. Speaking of faraway lands where people speak weird, did you see Jágr's comments?
I did. So we were going to bring this up as well, just because obviously from one Czech great and David Pastrnak to arguably the greatest Czech player of all time. Some depressing news about one Jaromír Jágr, who basically, DJ, I mean, we have the quotes here. He pretty much all but confirmed like he'd prefer to be done playing hockey at 49 years old, but continues to play out of obligation to Kladno because of the ties that, of course, his father had to the team, and fears that if he retires, sponsorship dollars dissipate and the club might have to fold. So it's incredibly bittersweet because it's taken the past few years of like, oh my God, Jaromír Jágr's still playing. This is great. And soured it because now we know he's only playing out of obligation.
Yeah. It's super weird to think of like, because everyone was like, yeah, that's all he likes. He likes the game. He's Jágr. He's just gonna keep playing, like until eternity. And now I don't know. It's real weird just to hear him be like, yeah, I'm tired. I would like to quit playing hockey. It's like my dad makes me keep getting back on the ice.
It's like, and two, for the quotes, like where he mentions like, yeah, I used to just be able to be like, oh, if I want to score a goal, I'm going to score a goal. And now it's like, it doesn't work that way anymore. And it's like, that's just, it sucks. But it's like, he's 49. We all know this, but just a sad story.
Yeah, it is. And he should, I don't know. What's he like? So that's what surprised me, right? Like, if he stops playing, the club's going to go under. What's he waiting for? Like, is he going to play for 18 more years? Like, is he just going to have a kid and wait for that? Wait for Jaromír Jágr the third to take over? And he's like 67 years old. They're pushing him out there. Just, I think at this point, I think it's almost an inevitability if it's a possibility.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought too, was what's the end game for him? When does it stop? Like, how long can you hold on until whatever needs to happen finally happens? Because from the sounds of it, like you said, it's not close to happening. Yeah. So it's just, I can't help but think, like, I don't know, you would think it would have been enough if like, oh yeah, he's part owner of the team now and he's an ambassador for the team, that would be enough. Because now who's going to, people still,
the fickle hockey market of Kladno.
Like, people will still go, I'm sure, but how many people after hearing these words from him will say, well, I still don't care if Jágr's not on the ice. I'm not going and supporting the team. Like, you would think, if anything, if he were to just be like, hey, for those who support the team and for those who are on the fringe, just please support the team because I'm dying. Like, I'm 49 years old and can't physically do this anymore, but I don't want this club to go away that means so much to all of us. You would think that a plea like that would work.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I don't understand Czech
translation.
Culture.
Yeah, I don't either.
So, again, not the not the happiest tidbit there. Deej, we only have a few more things to add here. Again, the viewer questions may have been the highlight of the show here. Gotta love the summer months. But we do have a couple of signings, including one that was confirmed during our break from the action. It's not up on Cap Friendly yet, but the Vancouver Canucks have signed forward Jason Dickinson to a 3-year deal worth $2.65 million per. Not all that surprising of a deal. I mean, again, the Canucks acquired his rights from the Dallas Stars, so it makes sense that that's who you go out and get. In terms of the cap right now, they do have a little bit of space as it stands. Now, Cap Friendly, it is a bit of a pain because they'll have certain people listed in terms of being in an LTIR spot, but they won't factor it in for some teams, if not all of them. So right now, they're listed as having $13 million in cap space. Technically, they'll get an extra 3.5 from Michael Furland when he's officially on IR. I do not believe that they have another player kind of in that category that would be on the outs looking in. So let's say they have about $18.5 to $19 million to now be able to sign Pettersson and Quinn Hughes. The question is, and I think it has to be asked, $19 million. If it's enough, in theory, it could be just barely enough. Granted, Cale Makar taking $9 million when he probably could have gotten more if Seth Jones is getting $9 million helps a lot. But can you imagine a world where Quinn Hughes makes less than 7 or 8? I can't. I have a hard time seeing that.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I still feel like they've got to move somebody, right?
I mean, I think it would help. Again, they have cap space to get these 2 major signings done.
Because I thought they were at $10 million in cap space at the moment.
So Cap Friendly has them listed at 13. Technically, it would be about 10 after the Dickinson signing.
You got to think Quinn Hughes makes at least 8. I'm going to go as far as say there's almost no way with the current D market that he makes less than 8.
Yeah, actually, because Cap Friendly's not factoring in the Dickinson trade, at least as we stand. So the numbers might be a little bit off. But if he's making 265 of that 13, again, we'll do the quick maths here. But
yeah, it's like 10-7 is give or take.
Yeah, and then they'll get the extra 3.5 for Michael Furland, which again leaves you at about $14 million to sign Quinn Hughes and Pettersson.
Yeah,
so you better hope. I was going to say
that's going to take 6.
God, that Dickinson contract. I mean, even though it's under 3 and that's not that bad, that still hurts a little bit.
I mean, that's what's so crazy though too is you got to imagine that this just doesn't fit together. Because those Hughes brothers have a sick agent. Like some guy came in and was like, I'll rep all 3 of you. Like, and you know what I mean? There's no way he's like that. Like, and Pettersson, you try and like use his own injuries against him. But even then, I mean, aside from he's just a hair under a point per game player. It's just, I don't see how Vancouver I don't see how Jim Benning gets around this.
What's interesting to me is they have done basically all of their other business. They went out and acquired Connor Garland and signed him. They went out and acquired Jason Dickinson and got a deal done. They picked up Oliver Ekman-Larsson. To me, it scream like, well, we have our number to both Elias and Quinn, and that's it. That's our number. And can Vancouver, again, if this is, the proper way to look at this, I might be wrong here. Fair enough. But if Vancouver's trying to play hardball with these 2 guys and say, well, this is our number, take it or leave it, can Jim Benning get away with that? Because I don't think he can. Like you said, like if I'm Quinn Hughes or Elias Pettersson and I'm looking at this and it's like you're trying to play hardball and say this is the number when I'm the best forward on this team and I'm the best defender on this team, I don't know how well that's going to work out for him.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think it is. That's a rough situation.
So like I said, you look at the numbers, you talk about what will be on LTIR, what's, being accounted for right now and what isn't. I just don't see how this is. I mean, we talked about the Winnipeg Jets situation earlier in the week, and it's not bad. I mean, again, like if they crunch the numbers a little bit, they have just enough to make it work, which is why we debated, whether or not they should make a move, even if, at first with the cap friendly stuff, we thought, hey, maybe they might outright be over. But, even if you aren't over and you're barely making it work, is that what you want to do when that forward core is that weak? For the Vancouver Canucks, do you really want to play chicken with Pettersson and with Quinn Hughes to try and get these deals done when who are you going to move then if you want to free up space to get these deals done? Like you just signed Tucker Pullman, you re-signed Hamonic. What are you going to try to move Tyler Myers 3 years, $6 million per contract? I mean, how many teams are going to be willing to do that at this point? They're going to make you pay even more now than, say, Arizona forced teams to pay to get those deals done.
Yeah.
Vancouver's one of those teams I look at. I'm like, what the hell is necessarily going on there?
Yeah, I have no idea. That's going to be... Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's going to be rough. That's what that's going to be.
And speaking of Winnipeg, too, we'll talk about it really quickly. They signed forward Andrew Kopp, a one-year deal at $3.64 million per. Leaves them with a cap hit today of $87.3 million. Again, yet to factor in Brian Little's 5.3 that'll be going off the books due to LTIR. But still, that leaves Winnipeg in a pretty interesting cap situation. It's very, very, very close, I think, is the best way to describe it. And again, you are looking at a potential fourth line to be filled up with guys like Jansen Harkins, Riley Nash, Dominic Toninato, Luke Johnson. And then maybe you get some of your younger guys in there like Austin Pagansky, David Gustafson. I'm concerned for Winnipeg if they don't move a defenseman.
Yeah, and to me, even though he's only had 1 year on this current contract, he's been injured so much. It's got to be Nathan Beaulieu, right? Like it's the exact amount of money they need almost to get right under the cap. He really just hasn't done much on that back end just because of the injuries. I don't know, and there's got to be someone that needs a defenseman. I don't know. There's so many puzzles that I think these teams trying to be cap compliant a month before the season starts, like in the next couple of weeks, I think that we're going to see some phenomenal situations arise because somebody is going to, and I really hate that this is the only thing I can think of. Someone's going to get stuck with the hot potato here. There seems to me to be the total amount of salary going around the NHL is higher than the combined cap hit of every single team.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it could still be the ramifications, too, of the cap not going up as projected, thanks to COVID. Yeah. That could also be a decent factor in this conversation here. Deeds, the last two signings that we have to talk about. Joe Thornton to the Florida Panthers on a 1-year deal at League Min. And right as we ended our last show, Sam Reinhart re-signed 3 years at $6.5 million per. The Florida Panthers, with $1.3 million right now in cap space, have nobody that they have to sign. They're good to go in that regard. And I mean, hey, what Joe Thornton will necessarily provide at 42 years old when we all know his skating has kind of fallen off a little bit, who's to say? It's clear that he can still be a somewhat useful player depending on what position you happen to put him in. But I mean, all things considered, I don't hate the Joe Thornton signing, and then obviously getting the Sam Reinhart deal done as well is huge, and I think justifiably so. I mean, you can question, relying still. I mean, if someone wants to doubt Carter Verhaeghe at this point, I think they're a little bit off. But if you want to doubt like Sam Bennett and Anthony Duclair being crucial parts to the top six, I can see what you mean. But on paper, still, the Florida Panthers look absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and there was something about Duclair this last year. I don't know if like Q got to him or something, but he looked different than the way he had looked with every other team. And I think maybe it could be this is almost the first time. I mean, he was on the Rangers when they were pretty good, but Duclair was kind of in a situation where every team he was on was rebuilding or tanking, And this is kind of like you got to see him on a team that actually was like, hey, you want to be a part of our long-term plans? We're not just having you here to score goals so people cheer and buy beer while we're having a shit season, which in a weird way was Duclair's role for a while in Arizona and in Ottawa. And so it was cool to see him take a step forward last year. He's an incredibly fast skater, which I think fits in very well with the modern NHL. And then obviously he found some chemistry, both with Barkov and with Huberdeau when he was playing on their separate lines. So that's exciting. Now, Sam Reinhart probably going to play wing on the top line. I love the signing. I think it's a fair value for Sam Reinhart. I mean, 25 goals in Buffalo. He's probably going to be the first 100 goal scorer in the modern NHL. It's probably, I think that's how that conversion works. The Joe Thornton signing, though, it's cool. Like, that's how I felt about it. It's really weird, especially on a team that almost has an embarrassment of center depth. There's so much of it on this Panthers team that the signing of Joe Thornton it seemed really weird to me.
I mean, it caught me off guard. I wasn't someone who was kind of completely writing him off as he's 100% done in the league. It was really weird, the start of last season, kind of his usage in Toronto and kind of where he started to where he finished the season. But you get Joe Thornton on a power play. Good things can happen. You shelter him on that fourth line. He's not abysmal in that regard. Now, again, the argument is like, well, is it worth trying to shelter him just to have him as a power play specialist? But I don't know. It's one of the more interesting moves of the offseason because I think a lot of people thought after what happened with this Toronto tenure that maybe he does just go back to back to Switzerland and we see what happens from there.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I know we don't talk about the AHL a lot, but I think for the first time in the last 12 years, maybe, the Panthers are going to field a sick AHL roster. When I mentioned that embarrassment of center depth, like you look at what that center depth looks like, and you get Anton Lundell, Juho Lammikko, Eetu Luostarinen, and Aleksi Heponiemi as your four centers in Charlotte. And you combine that with, you've got Saron Noel down there. You've got Logan Hutsko. You've got Grigory Denisenko. It's just, I don't know. It's really interesting for me as a Panthers fan to not see the prospects struggling on the third line. That to me has been how the Panthers have worked. It's like, hey, we've got two okay lines and we had to call up our prospects early because the team sucks. It's weird to see like these guys actually in the AHL where they can dominate and learn the American game like they should be. And I don't know, it's a new territory for me as a Panthers fan.
I will say too, I mean, obviously if the cap situation was a little bit different, maybe you didn't have Bobrovsky making $10 million. If they had to go out and make a move, they have the prospects and have the picks to get it done as well to bolster this roster even further.
Yeah, I mean, and then you consider with this the current roster, they are 1.5 million below the salary cap, and that is with 18 forwards on the roster. Or I'm sorry, 16 forwards, 7 defensemen, and 2 goalies. So there's still 2 people they could send down for $3 million in cap space. So it's like it's an interesting situation. They're not necessarily. I mean, I'm gonna say they're done, but
yeah.
I mean, you see that rumor floating around that they're gonna sign Marleau because why the hell wouldn't you? You sign Joe Thornton for some reason. So obviously they're drinking something that makes that seem like a good idea. And I can't imagine that it's too far of a leap to get Marleau as well. If you're already on that train, like I'm not really here for it, but it's probably going to happen if they sign Joe Thornton.
I mean, hey, veteran experience, right? Get guys who have won a playoff round, but only made it to one cup, as much as that pains me to say.
It's like, listen, guys, we can't win a cup unless there's someone hanging dong in the locker room. So we brought in Joe Thornton.
The oldest dong in the West. He's over here now. He's ours.
I don't know. Yeah.
We can't have that be a Spotify title, can we?
The oldest dong in the West. Not anymore. No.
Damn.
I don't know what I don't know what I was gonna go with. They haven't heard of Stephen King in the Middle East. That was that was my title of all the notes I made.
Oh God.
I don't know.
So aside from those signings, again, not too much else notable. Aside from like younger players that have been signed, Atu Ratu was announced by the New York Islanders, for example, which again could still be one of the steals of the draft. And whether or not certain young guys make it to the NHL, like Brant Clark, will he get a look with the LA Kings? Who knows? We'll talk more about that when the time comes. So, Deej, our final talking point here. We're not going to go through the entire list, but it is based off of an article on The Athletic by one Dom Lasician, the NHL's 10 worst contracts.
Yeah.
And
it was interesting. I certainly I didn't agree with a lot of them, but like that said, I don't think any of them are hot takes because they're backed up with like stats and an explanation that's not just like he looked terrible and the fans are mad. Like there's like a legitimate argument for all of them, and it's interesting that on face value I disagreed with a lot of them. And there were some that really stood out to me.
So number one, for the second year in a row, worst contract in the league was Drew Doughty. Now, a lot of this is based off of things like, expected goal share, actual goal share, basically a player's impact on the ice, and obviously the averages relative to everybody else in that position. So this past season, where Drew Doughty was actually pretty good. He had a 50-point pace. He was worth about 1.3 wins added to his team based on an 82-game season. Which, as Dom notes in the article, it's not bad. It's clear he still has some gas in the tank. The problem is he's paid at $11 million. And based off this formula, he is labeled as someone who is getting paid as if the expectation is elite level play, which the average is roughly 2.6 wins on the season. So he would have to play twice as well as he did this past season to kind of avoid being listed like this. And the problem is he's now 31 years old. And again, this contract continues forever and ever. Amen. It was an $11 million deal for 6 years when it was signed. So is that one of the ones that you disagreed with? Because again, I don't think Drew Doughty's a bad defenseman. Yeah, and the argument's always out there of like, oh, well, if he was on a better team. But, I mean, we're not going to know because the Kings are on their way up, at least in theory, on their way up, as opposed to being a perennial contender right now. So the question is, do you view that as one of the face value issues, or is that just more of a, well, maybe he isn't that bad. His downfall coincides with when the team ended up playing poorly and at the end of their run. Like, how do you view Drew Doughty?
Well, so I'll walk you through my logic here. So I start reading the article, right? I scroll down, I see Drew Doughty, and I was like, I can't wait to disagree with this, purely because I think when I see a lot of articles that are like this, that are, in terms of what are the really bad contracts, you run into like a sunk cost fallacy, right? Like And one of the reasons I think that Bobrovsky didn't make this list is like, even though you're paying him $10 million, like you really are only at a deficit of like $3 or $4 million, because you're still getting a goalie that's doing okay. Like that should be costing you about 5 or 6. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And so I mean, I wonder too, sorry to cut you off. I wonder too, if some people look at that situation as like, well, Spencer Knight's on $925K. So it kind of softens the blow because you have some teams that are paying two goalies like a combined $8 to $10 million where neither one of them are really your ideal starter. At least in this situation, you have $10 million split between two goaltenders, but there's still the thought that Sergei Bobrovsky could play at an elite level. And Spencer Knight, we don't know yet. So I wonder if that's a factor. Whereas for the Kings, maybe there's some conversation about what could they do if that, like, the Panthers are good despite the Bobrovsky deal. Maybe the thoughts out there of what could the Kings do if they didn't have $11 million tied up in Drew Doughty? What if there was $3 million less?
Well, that's what's even more fascinating to me, right? Is because of the way that I argue the Bobrovsky deal, which didn't make this list, that's actually how these contracts are being analyzed, is in wins against replacement without sunk cost, as in how much money or like what performance in WAR are you actually getting from this player? And so I immediately was presented with a methodical argument using my own logic and thinking system about why I was wrong about Drew Doughty not having a bad contract. And it absolutely ruined me. I was like, I remember when I was smart. I was like, it's before all the concussions. But it's nuts because this article is completely right. And then I'm scrolling down. It's like contract I agree with. You see like Jeff Skinner. Like you see the usual suspects.
Yeah.
And
so
then
go ahead.
You get to Tyler Seguin.
That was the one that stood out to me too.
That blew my mind. Because they're not wrong when they're present, because this is exactly how I would analyze and think about this. Only they actually looked up the numbers, which is something I've never had the gumption to do. And it's insane to me. When you look at this, you look at the comparable contracts that they have listed. The Seguin contract is insane to me. Like this is crazy because I can't disagree with any of these rankings because of how they argue them.
So that was probably the other big name that stood out to me as well. And I mean, it was noted in the article too. You got to figure there were concerns about Tyler Seguin's game before coming off of a massive injury. And now he is coming off of a very, very major injury, about to enter his 30s. It's an interesting deal to look at. And again, most of them are, like Deej mentioned, there are a lot of the usual suspects, high-paid suspects that you wouldn't be surprised to see on this list. But I agree with Deej in that, you look at that article and the justification for Seguin being on there, you might think, how the hell is Tyler Seguin on here compared to a Jeff Skinner? But then you start looking into some of the numbers, and I don't know, maybe there'll be some people still say, nah, but the eye test. Nah, but just this is a Bruins fans podcast, and they're saying Seguin's bad. But, well, I mean, it's something to watch out for at the very least.
Yeah, and then, I only want to touch on 3 because I feel like I don't want to go through the whole article because there's a paywall, and I love The Athletic. I subscribe to it, and if you can get it around Black Friday, I definitely think you should as well because their deals are insane, and the article quality is extremely high, and they pay their writers extremely well.
I believe I'm still paying $1 a month for it.
Gosh.
Which is a steal, to say the least.
It's always nice to click on it, and it works.
Yes. But I know. When you're on our hockey or you're on Twitter and you click, an Athletic article.
Paywall.
Yeah, and you get hit with the paywall, and you're just like, oh, fuck. But yeah, it's a glorious thing when the article just fully loads, and you're like, oh, yeah, this is great.
So one other contract stood out of this on this list, and I have a feeling you know the one I'm talking about. And that it is, the ink hasn't even dried on it yet.
Yeah, that's the one I was going to guess. Seth Jones's extension is number 4, and it's not even his current contract.
Holy shit. It's like, and that's the thing too. It's like, because I would love to be like, oh, well, Seth Jones, he's the type of defenseman that's gonna he thrives under a player, with a player like Zach Werenski, and just like every single point I have about Seth Jones and why I don't think this was necessarily an overpay is just slammed right back in my big stupid face. I was like, I've never had an article just so succinctly eviscerate my system of logic and then have it where I'm sitting here and have oh, well, yeah, shit, you're right. This thing is like the, I don't know. This is like the Jose Baez of It's
What a
he's the Jose
comparison.
Baez of NHL stats. Like, it's just, it's like I came in where I was like, no, I know what's going on here. And I'm leaving like, well, no, that guy was right. And I'm going home.
So again, I think as you can tell, a fantastic article that's definitely worth your time at The Athletic, again, by one Dom Session. So check that out. And again, subscribe to The Athletic if you haven't already. Deej, with that, I think we're done. I think it's another episode in the books. Episode number 50, highlighted by some sweet Maine facts, most of which I didn't get right. But that's okay, because how many people would get obscure trivia about their own home state correct?
Right? It's like Florida. Our state bird is the firework. Good night, everybody. This has been episode 50 of the Tougies Take podcast. Tougies Take is a Deej Audio podcast. Deej Audio, you're listening to it. We'll see you for episode 51, where we talk about the usual stuff, because 51 is not a number we celebrate. Until next time. Tougie,
Goodbye,
any
everybody.
final thoughts? Just bye, everybody.
Goodbye. Just goodbye.